Hey, what's up guys? Good evening, Rage and Jermasian. I want to welcome you guys back to my channel. Also, I want to thank you guys for joining me for another news story. Tonight, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about the Kowalski family and the trial that has been dubbed the Take Care of Maya trial. Please do bear with me. This one's going to be a little longer than normal as there is a lot to discuss in the situation as the events leading up to the trial that we're going to be talking about here. Before we get started, if this is your first time to the channel and you happen to like what you see tonight or you happen to like what you see before, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button. The support is greatly appreciated. Next to that subscribe button is that notification bell. Hit that notification bell. That way you can be alerted every time I post a new news, food, or family vlog video. Okay, so let's dive right into it. So tonight what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about the Kowalski family, their journey with their daughter's disease, CRPS, as well as their experience with the Johns Hopkins All-Children Hospital. So you may have already heard about this story because the trial is all over the news, as well as there's a documentary on Netflix called Take Care of Maya, which basically is the Kowalskis explaining their experience throughout the whole process of their daughter's disease and the whole experience with the All-Children's Hospital. And unfortunately, according to the Kowalskis, their experience with the Johns Hopkins All-Children's Hospital was not a good one. Let's talk about why. But before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about the Kowalski family. Jack and Beata Kowalski met years after Beata had moved to the US, leaving communist Poland when she was only 16 years old. She was able to complete high school, put herself through college, and then eventually became a fusion nurse. Jack was a firefighter and basically was his whole entire life until he was able to retire. The Kowalskis wanted to start a family, but unfortunately had a lot of complications on the way. With a lot of perseverance and never giving up, they eventually gave birth to their first child, Maya Kowalski. She was born December 10th, 2005, and 2 years later, they gave birth to their second child, their son, Kyle Kowalski. Let's go ahead and throw up a family photo of the Kowalskis real quick. What a good-looking family, and seemingly, they had everything they had dreamed of. They were able to start a family, nice house, nice neighborhood, good careers, and a loving family dynamic. In 2015, the 10-year-old Maya started getting sick and started having multiple ailments. According to Maya, her symptoms consisted of her being in constant pain. Her arms, legs, her feet were in constant pain. She was always tired, lethargic, and just overall felt weak. It even got to the point to where she started getting lesions on her skin, little sores and shit. And at first, unfortunately, the Kowalskis had no idea what was going on with their daughter. At first, they started to gravitate towards respiratory issues because they claimed that whenever she went outside, she started having these coughing attacks that usually would not happen. So at one point, she got a respiratory infection, she started having blurred vision, she also started having headaches, and she claimed that her skin was super sensitive to touch. It eventually got to the point to where it was difficult for Maya to walk. Unfortunately, nobody was able to give them an exact diagnosis on this disease or illness, even with the symptoms that were provided from the Kowalski family. So Beata, being a registered nurse and essentially having a daughter that was suffering, she was very diligent on documenting every visit, every opinion, every prescribed drug, how much was needed, and when it was needed. After no answers in the basic runaround that doctors will give you now and then, they never got a finalized diagnosis for her ailments. The Kowalskis were having none of it, and they went from hospital to hospital, doctor to doctor to find out what was going on with their daughter. After all that, instead of going home and getting some rest, Beata would hop on the computer and spend her nights doing research and typing in different symptoms from her daughter to get some kind of answer. Eventually, at one point, she did get some kind of an answer, and unfortunately, it came from a computer as opposed to a doctor, a nurse, or anybody else who went to school for this shit. And after multiple searches with all the symptoms that Maya had, Beata eventually found Dr. Anthony Kirkpatrick. Beata and Maya set up an appointment with Dr. Kirkpatrick, and after a series of tests, he determined that she had complex regional pain syndrome, or CRPS. So in a nutshell, when a patient is diagnosed with CRPS, it is said that whenever they get an injury, their pain tends to increase instead of decrease over time. Their skin feels like they're on fire, as well as they have extreme joint pain. It is also showed that CRPS is predominantly linked to younger females, and Maya was 10 at the time. And unfortunately, due to the rareness of the disease, get this, doctors eventually told her that it was psychological. Imagine going to a doctor, telling them that you have pain, and they tell you that you're making all of it up. Apparently, Dr. Kirkpatrick and his team treated over 3,000 patients who suffered from CRPS. And then at one point, they determined that the only treatment for it to stop the pain and stop all the suffering was small doses of ketamine. Well, it just really all depends on the patient. It could be small doses of ketamine or it could be big doses of ketamine. Obviously, everybody's body is different. So at first, they tried an outpatient regimen of giving her low doses of ketamine, but unfortunately, it was not helping. Dr. Kirkpatrick then discussed with Maya and her mom Beata about a ketamine coma procedure. This is where doctors use 50 times the recommended amount of ketamine to induce a 5-day coma. A 5-day medical induced coma on purpose. Sounds scary, right? As a parent, if your child is suffering, you'll take any measure to ease their pain, provided it's safe. Well, this treatment has been done. Back then, it was still experimental, and it was only done in Mexico. After some discussion between Dr. Kirkpatrick and the Kowalskis headed out to Mexico, do whatever they can to help their daughter. At that point, they got to a treatment center where they injected Maya with high doses of ketamine, which induced that 5-day coma. After 5 days, Maya came out of the coma okay, and in the days, weeks following, she seemed to be doing a lot better. After returning from Mexico, unfortunately, the Kowalskis were unable to afford Dr. Kirkpatrick's continued treatments. Dr. Kirkpatrick then recommended his colleague, Dr. Ashraf Hanna, who took the Kowalskis' insurance and then prescribed Maya low doses of ketamine. After that, Maya started to progress. She started playing with her friends again, started going out again, went back to school, doing all the normal things that a 10-year-old should be doing at that stage of her life. After a whole year, the treatment seemed to be helping. A whole year of improvement compared to the state that she was in before. On October 7, 2016, Maya woke up in the middle of the night complaining about extreme pain and basically regressed and went back to the same pain that she was feeling before. Apparently, her body had relapsed and it seemed that her pains came back with a vengeance. Beata was at work at the time, so Jack called Beata and said, "Hey, I'm gonna take Maya to the ER. She has relapsed. She's in extreme pain. She's asking for help. We need to take her to the ER." Upon arrival at the ER, Jack immediately told nurses and staff of their daughter's diagnosis of CRPS. Well, unfortunately, nobody who was working at the time really could have given a shit because it's the ER. People come into the ER all the time. They sit there and fucking make you wait for 2 to 3 hours before they do anything. But apparently nobody in the lobby or in that hospital at the moment knew what CRPS was or what it entailed. At that point, Jack got Beata on the phone. That way she could tell the nurses what her diagnosis was, what her treatment was, how much, and when to give it to her. According to the Kowalskis, the only thing that the nurses and the personnel staff heard was that they just wanted to inject their daughter with ketamine. Consistently, repeatedly, just inject, inject, inject. They questioned the diagnosis, and they also questioned the regimen that the Kowalskis had Maya on for a year now. Finally, Beata arrived at the ER and told them the same shit that she was telling them over the phone. The diagnosis, the symptoms, the regimen, but nobody tried to hear anything that she had to say. Instead, they stated that she was belligerent, she was controlling, she was demanding. I mean, you know what your daughter's regimen is. You've been doing it for over a year. You have the prescription in hand. You're showing these doctors, and the only thing that they can think is that you're being irate and that you're trying to tell them how to do their job. And this is coming from a long line of staff that don't even know what CRPS is. So at that point, Maya was transported to the pediatric intensive care unit. So they did eventually start giving Maya low dosages of ketamine, but unfortunately it was not working. At that point, doctors started questioning CRPS and if it was even a legitimate diagnosis. So your daughter's in extreme pain, you take her to the ER, and then all of a sudden, all these doctors and nurses are basically calling bullshit on what you're saying. After seeing their daughter continuously suffering, Jack and Beata made threats to take Maya and just leave the hospital altogether. Well, of course, that drew attention from hospital staff, and at that point, they started questioning Maya's well-being under her parents' care. Almost immediately, the hospital staff called Child Protective Services, and a few days later, when Jack was visiting his daughter Maya, in comes Dr. Sally Smith. Dr. Sally Smith is a child abuse pediatrician. Immediately, she started asking questions about medication, where Maya was being treated, why such high doses of ketamine, just basically doing what CPS does. They dig and dig and dig in order to do their job. Their goal is to protect the child. And if they don't protect the child because of what they think is going on, they're not doing their job. According to Jack Kowalski, after a short 10-minute interview, Dr. Sally Smith then determined that Maya was being abused, and they diagnosed Maya's mom, Beata, with Munchhausen syndrome by proxy. Munchhausen syndrome is where a caretaker is essentially accused of convincing a child or a dependent that they're ill, they need medication, they need extra care, when in all reality there's nothing wrong with the child or dependent, thus eventually causing stress, pain, and mental anguish to the dependent or the child. At that point, a doctor came in, told Jack that he had to leave immediately and that Maya was under state's custody. Just like that. It's amazing how much power people have where they can literally just snap their fingers and take your child away from you because of what they think is going on. The Kowalskis immediately lawyered up and hired lawyer Deborah Salisbury. She actually stated in an interview that this whole chain of events that we're discussing was caused because she feels like Beata rubbed somebody the wrong way, somebody didn't like what Beata had to say, and just kind of overall used their control and power to do what they had to do. Sure enough, at that point, Beata was denied any visits with her daughter, and then she started being investigated. You go to the doctors, ask for help, your daughter's suffering, and then before you know it, you're being investigated by CPS. Jack was still able to visit his daughter, but with strict rules and guidelines on what can be discussed during visits. Of course, that was hard on Beata. She was still able to make phone calls to Maya, but even on those phone calls, there was the guidelines and rules, and they were monitored. The days, weeks, eventually months of Maya being under state's custody obviously took a toll on the whole Kowalski family. Their family was torn apart. Some were unable to see her, some were able to see her, conversations were able to be had, but they were monitored. It was just an overall shitty situation. In early 2017, Jack, Beata, and Kyle, they were supposed to go to a birthday party. Beata woke up complaining about a migraine headache, told Jack and her son to go ahead and head to the party without her. She was going to stay home and get some rest. Later that evening, Jack and Kyle came home to notice Beata's door was closed. They automatically thought that she was sleeping, decided to let her get some rest, started watching some TV. Later on in the evening, Beata's brother came by to visit the Kowalskis, and as he was walking through the house, he opened up the garage and found a horrific discovery. As he entered the garage, Beata's brother unfortunately found her hanging from a noose. I do have a couple clips of the 911 call. I am going to play a few segments for you, and I must warn you, it's extremely gut-wrenching and heartbreaking to hear.
Exactly what happened?
She hung herself in the garage.
Are you with her now?
Well, I'm in the garage.
Is she awake? I just have to verify.
She's stiff. No, Kyle, you can't go in there. No, Kyle, you can't go in there.
Okay, tell me why she looks like she's dead.
No, I'm a retired deputy fire chief. I know she is.
Do you think she's beyond any help?
Beyond, yes, rigmarole. I'm sure she's really
okay.
stiff.
I'm sending this.
After being treated like a criminal, being investigated, being denied visits, having monitored phone calls, after 86 days of not being able to see her daughter and dealing with all this bullshit, Beata Kowalski hung herself in her garage. 86 days of ridicule and judgment from those who you expect to help you and your family overcome these sicknesses, these ailments, these pains. Suicide will always be looked down upon as a selfish act, but you, me, or anybody who was not in Beata's situation cannot understand the pain that she was feeling inside. We can never judge that feeling unless you've gone through it. After her death, an email was found addressed to the judge and others at the hospital stating her anguish, her heartache, and the now infamous line, "Take care of Maya." After dealing with what I can only assume is unimaginable pain and sorrow of having to bury your wife over suicide, Jack took the initiative, went to a specialist in Rhode Island, had them confirm Maya's CRPS, took that report and sent it over to the judge. Well, after seeing that report, the judge decided to go ahead and release Maya into Jack's custody. It's almost enraging for the fact that it seemed to have taken Beata's suicide in order for them to release Maya into Jack's custody. A little too little, a little too late. According to the Kowalskis, Maya is progressing and is getting better and better by day, still has little pains here and there, and according to specialists, she can easily relapse at any moment. After Beata's death, Jack filed a lawsuit against Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital for punitive damages in the suicide of his wife and all the trauma and pain and anguish that this whole entire situation has caused. And of course, just like our justice system, after years of waiting, the trial was pushed back. But then after that, a judge confirmed that the trial would be pushed back indefinitely until the 2nd District Court of Appeals decides that the punitive damages can be included in the lawsuit. Just the fucking runaround, bro. Finally, October 7th of last year, 2022, their request to pursue punitive damages was approved. The trial just started earlier last week from when this video was posted, so make sure you follow the trial on any of the platforms where the trial is streaming live. And of course, once we get this verdict, it's all going to be over with for the Kowalski family, whether it be a good or bad outcome. Guess we'll have to see. So let's get into it. So I've done my research, looked into it as much as I can, and you know what? I mean, everybody has their own opinions, okay? And obviously the Netflix documentary is out, so everybody that watches that documentary, I mean, it's heartbreaking. But here's the thing, okay? People watch the documentaries, they see what they see, and they just kind of go based on that. Nobody really knows the real story. Nobody really knows what was going on in the family. I'm not trying to say that they're wrong. I'm not trying to say that they're right. Nobody knows. The trial is going to be pursued, obviously, and as it already has been. There's going to be people that are going to be testifying on the stand. You're gonna have the Kowalskis that are testifying. You're going to have employees from Johns Hopkins testifying. There's going to be a whole lot of people involved in this whole situation. It's going to be hard to determine what the outcome of this situation is going to be, because we only know what we see on TV and what we see on the media. Now again, Beata was diagnosed with Munchhausen syndrome, and we don't know, we don't know if she was really doing that. We don't know if she was really being sincere. We don't know if she really had Munchausen syndrome. I mean, unfortunately, this lady passed from suicide, so we're not going to be able to get her whole entire story of the situation. It's just a fucked up situation overall. I will be following the trial as much as I can, give you guys updates here and there. More than likely, I'm not going to be posting another video on this until the verdict has been reached on if they're going to get their money or if they're not going to get their money. If there's anything major that happens in the trial, I'll definitely post a couple of videos on that. Any kind of, highlights of the trial, any kind of arguments, any kind of outbursts, whatever it may be. But obviously, I'll definitely keep you guys posted. If you have not seen the documentary yet, Take Care of Maya on Netflix. Go ahead and check it out. That way you guys can kind of have an idea of what's going on. But then again, you can't go based on what you see or what you hear or just solely on what you see on TV. Keep an eye on the trial. Make sure you guys follow all the testimonies, listen to the story, and let's just kind of get the whole gist of the situation and see how it turns out. I do feel for this family, regardless of the situation. Jack has lost his wife. The kids have lost their mother. It's just a sad situation overall. So again, guys, I know I said this one is going to be a little longer than normal. I appreciate you guys sticking with me throughout the whole video. The dedication is what's up. I do appreciate it. Like I've said before, if this is your first time to the channel, you happen to like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. If you are not new to the channel, but you have not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. The support is greatly appreciated. As you guys know, next to that subscribe button is that notification bell. Hit that notification bell. That way, every time I post a new news, food, or family vlog, you guys will get alerted right away. So again, I'm Raging Jamasian. I appreciate you guys more than you know for tuning in. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to what I have to say and all these major true crime, just ridiculous stories that we got going on this planet. And I've said it multiple times, broken fucking record over here. The shit is sad, bro, but this is the shit that we need to pay attention to, and this is the shit that happens around us. You guys already know what it is. Stay safe, stay positive. We're all humans out there. Please try to treat each other as such. Follow this trial. Let's see how it turns out. As soon as a verdict is reached, your boy will post a video on an update, and then we can go from there. Also, don't forget to drop a comment in the comment section. Start a discussion. I always like to hear other people's opinions. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think about the Kowalskis and their situation. Also, let me know what you think about Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital. Again, guys, Raging Jamasian, thank you guys for coming back. I'll get at you guys next time. Peace.